There is no other racing venue in the United States synonymous with speed the way the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has brought racing to us for over a century now. 30 plus years of stock car racing have seen this track, of course, give the likes of Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt stories to tell and races to be won. And in the virtual realm, the story is ever changing. This time around, the Integrity OCTANE Series faces off at the Brickyard in a moment where every point matters. 8 playoff positions are still open to the entire field, and it all comes down to whether or not a driver takes advantage of tonight, or if they slip to the back of the pack. That could determine whether or not a driver finishes ahead of the points bubble or slips right under it. Currently, only 7 drivers have locked themselves in, and the battle between the 5 closest drivers are separated by 13 points from 12th to 15th in the championship standings. Welcome back to the 2025 Integrity OCTANE Series. This is your 20th race of the regular season, and we are here in Speedway, Indiana at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Welcome back to coverage live on FTN Broadcasting. I will be your host for tonight's event. I'm David Kreutz, commentating and producing, and we are about to get the ball rolling on perhaps the most exciting big track night of the season. It's a 2.5 mile circuit akin to Daytona or Talladega in scale, but the stakes are a little bit higher than the last 2 trips we've been to, those major-sized venues. Qualifying is on the move. 2 laps will be taken across 5 minutes for every driver here. Don Stevenson with the provisional pole position. It's a 53.711 for Stevenson after his first of 2 laps. Stevenson tonight, one of the drivers coming in above the cut line. He is 25 points up on that marker, but he's going to slide out of 3, and he's going to have to forfeit his final qualifying lap. Woody Mahan starting strong and now making his way into 3 and 4 as well. Woody, no troubles on the way through 3. Now coming down the front straightaway all over again, Mahan is looking to improve. Top time is still held by Stevenson, but at the line, that's no longer going to be the case. Woody Mahan goes P1 provisionally and gets himself up to the top of the board. We'll see if that changes for Jacob Fife here as Zach Schrinkenal takes P1. Zach on his first lap, a 1/10 of a second quicker than Stevenson and Mahan alike. Nate Campbell then goes P2, and it looks like he's going to jump up to the highest seat on the board if he can just get a little bit more out of the car. Campbell, last time by, only 4/100ths of a second slower as Nick Tarbuck in the number 4 opts to get it up top as well. Nick quickest through his first lap, and we're still waiting on lap 2 for all of your drivers here, including Ethan Lane. Lane just went 0.2 of a second faster on his first of 2 laps. Ethan slides out of the exit of turn 2. He won't be able to improve with this second run, but it looks like he's already far and ahead of the rest of the field here. Blake Cannon, he gets it into second place. He's got to make up a 1/10.5 in this final run. As he goes down the back straight, it appears he will be the only remaining driver with a chance. Lap 1 is solid, but Ethan Lane is head and shoulders above the field with 22 times taken. Cannon loose out of 3, avoids the wall, keeps the speed as intact as he could. It looks like he's not going to let it slip out of control. Coming across the line, Blake Cannon's last lap was a 53.331, and as he comes by this time through, it'll go from a 53.3 to a 53.6. No improvement for Cannon. He will not be able to jump up and ahead. Brad Patton puts down his one and only, and it looks like as the number 12 of Ross Cato comes across the line, he will not be able to get his time validated. Not enough time for all drivers. 24 take a lap. It's a familiar face at the front of the field. Ethan Lane grabs the pole position, and for Lane, that is his 8th of the season, matching his number of victories on the campaign. Less than 5 minutes on the clock for those last adjustments. Although 5 minutes, a little more challenging to get a few laps in because of the scope of this track. We go to the short tracks like Bristol or Martinsville, and you can get upwards of 5 or 6 laps in a run. Realistically, you're only getting about 3 or 4 if you go out the second. The warm-up race, of course, opens up here. The race off pit road. Drivers try to get themselves out there immediately. Doesn't mean they're going to maximize that time, though. They'll be racing against other drivers trying to figure things out. I don't think we're going to see too many changes, though. Conditions are going to be stable all night long. Qualifying shows that it's a big crowd tonight from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Over 30 drivers have once again registered to make another strong night of attendance, and a great field will be with us once again. Ethan Lane, no stranger to leading these fields, finds himself with his 8th pole position on the campaign. A record high for the number 6 crew to this point. Of course, Lane is just non-stop at the head of the field. He'll take P1, pole position alongside Blake Cannon qualifying second, and Jared Davis going third in the number 19. Nick Tarbuck, who is now second in the championship, is battling against Nate Campbell to hold that position. After finally coming to victory lane last week, Nick today starts in 4th. Then from there, you'll have Sam Nieto going P5 and Zach Schrintenall rounding out the Super 6. As 7th place will be the driver, the number 45, Nate Campbell, 3rd in the championship. You'll have Nicholas Ward in number 97 starting in 8th, Ryan Beam in the 26 starting in 9th, and Don Stevenson wrapping up the top 10 as he looks tonight to lock himself into the playoff picture. Brian Yasek in the 55 is 11th as Tom Wetmore concludes the top dozen, and 13th place will be Woody Mahan with Bobby Keith P14. Jacob Fife concludes the top 15 as Cody Smith and Matt Sizzler go 16th and 17th. 18th is John DeBarro, 19th is Nolan Potter, and Matt Jonas will be 20th. The top 25 are ended out by Josh Gallagher, Sean Kalist, Eli Cars, Aaron Eads, and just after Aaron, the number 12 of Ross Cato, the first driver not to set a time. 26th will be Brad Patton, 27th Brant McClendon, 28th Kyle Cooper, and Richard Smith is 29th, with Boomer Logan wrapping up the top 30, and your final driver, Randy Fiash, in the number 54. 31 drivers, and keeping the good times rolling. It's a big track with a big field. Playoff implications for our penultimate regular season race, and at the top of the board for the 8th time this year, Ethan Lane grabs the pole position from the Brickyard. He has decided not to go on track for this warm-up, but second place in qualifying, Blake Cannon has. He's taken a lap or two and now comes to pit road with Nick Tarbuck. So far this year, Blake Cannon is the only driver who can claim that he has led both the Ignite and Octane Series standings, something that he did at simultaneous points, as a matter of fact, early in this season. Right now, it's no longer the case, of course, but early on in the catalog of races, Cannon was the best driver across both tours. Now, ever since that point, Ethan Lane has come on strong in the Octane Series. The JTM guys have really found their own on Monday nights as well, but Cannon remains a formidable contender as you're looking now at Jared Davis. Jared Davis currently trailing Sam Nieto right now on the track. Jared is a driver who is just outside the top 15 in the regular season standings and finds himself in that position where tonight is critical. He is 11 points under the cut line. The bubble is held by 2 drivers. Ross Cato and Nolan Potter are both sitting right on that points battle for 15th. They're tied with the identical amount of points, which means that for the time being, Jared Davis has 2 rivals to keep after. Sam Nieto is 72 points up. He is effectively locked in so long as there's no disaster on the racetrack. Bobby Keith gets on the way, but by this point, warm-up is over. Qualifying has come to pass. We know our lineup. It's now time to bring you your feature event from the Brickyard. 200 miles, 80 laps await the 31-car field. The track is quiet for the final time as the field is ready to roar. Ethan Lane collects the 8th pole position of his season, and he's been on a little bit of a slump as of late. He has 8 wins on this series, of course, to this point. It's been a few weeks, however, since he's gone to victory lane, both in the Ignite and Octane Series. The Ignite Series has been a particular trouble, where he's been beaten quite a few times now, be it by his own errors, such as the pit road mistake in Portland, or Michael Araya coming back to full pace both last night and 2 weeks ago in Michigan. Lane is looking to get back to his winning ways at a track he won at last season. Ethan, by this point last season, was coming in with 9 wins and was looking for his 10th, so he's just 1 win under that point tonight and could put himself back in the running to match his all-time winningest season last year with 14 victories out of 30 races on the calendar. And that's the end goal for Ethan Lane tonight. Blake Cannon as well doesn't have much to concern himself with. He too is locked into the playoff picture. Drivers to watch: Nolan Potter. Nolan qualifying 19th today, is sitting tied for 15th in points. Ross Cato tied right with him, qualifying in 25th. Matt Sisler, after a great race last night, getting some reps inside the 93. Well, tonight, Matt finds himself 17th. He is only 2 points above Nolan and Ross, which means that for all intents and purposes, you have 3 drivers sitting exactly on the playoff bubble, while Jared Davis, 11 points back, and John DeBarro, 31 points back, are eyeing those 3 and looking to make their move up and ahead to gain a few positions, critical positions, in the championship race. Conditions will be favorable to the driver all night long from Speedway, Indiana. A track so big it's got its own zip code. Tonight, ambient temperature of 86 degrees Fahrenheit with a very low relative humidity coming in at just about 86 degrees Fahrenheit and 22% relative humidity. That all sounds good, but here's the catch. The track temperature as we look overhead, a sizzling 131 degrees Fahrenheit, rivaling some of the warmest races on our season so far. The sun pours down on the pavement here in Indianapolis, and while it looks like there's a slight decrease over the last few minutes, I would be hard-pressed to say that's going to make much of a difference right now. Low humidity, high track temperature, it shouldn't be crazy slick, but those tires are going to burn, and you're going to see pace degradation as the night progresses. Leaders, including Lane, are well aware of it. They've just got to be conscious of the fact that making a mistake is very possible when you're dealing with the heat in the moment and the heat down below. 8 playoff spots are up for grabs. 3 are only divided by 2 points. Ethan Lane and Blake Cannon don't concern themselves with locking in. They're looking just to win once more. Green flags out for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Lane, who won last year, looks to do it again. He'll start it where he finished last and bring the field to green. 3 wide for the runner-up spot, and we are underway from the Yard of Bricks. And so it begins. Ethan Lane is out to a hot start. He finds himself 0.6 of a second up on Blake Cannon and Sam Nieto. Nieto was able to jump up rapidly from 5th to 2nd. He'll take a spot back and a step back at that as he falls back to 3rd place. Blake Cannon returns to P2. And a hot start for the number 2. Everyone else going to be, relatively speaking, single filed out. We got a save there from Don Stevenson and the 34 of Nolan Potter. Both will drift up the track, and a remarkable job in saving it, but it is still dicey. Oh, it gets bad. Stevenson up the track, as is Potter. Eli Cars, and the field, the back half anyway, is wrecked. Cautions out for lap 2. And that one was in the making for a little while. Watch as it begins with Stevenson, and he gets dicey, and it goes from there. First caution at lap number 2. Mahan side by side with Don Stevenson sends him further up the track, and Don was coming down the back straightaway as with quickness Nolan Potter was looking for an out. 3 wide, and shoving goes to 34, and he'll sail a little higher, and they drift up. Looks like a save through turns 3, of course, and 4 as well, but turn 4 didn't turn out to be the same way. Nolan Potter overcorrecting. Reminder, Potter is on the bubble. He cannot afford that to happen, and yet it did. Take a ride on board now with Nolan as he makes the critical mistake that may end his chance at fighting for a championship. Here's a look on board with Nolan Potter through that lap. And both drivers did a commendable job of saving it through 3. Turn 4 didn't turn out that way. Nolan coming in tied for 15th in points, 11 points ahead of Jared Davis. He's going to finish 31st and last. He's already hopped out of the cockpit and ended his race. Critical defeat for Nolan Potter, and it might be a playoff hope ender. Saves it through 3. Contact from Cars. That's what does him in. Up the track. Drivers blow by him, and the yellow flag falls. First incident of the day, and now drivers head down to pit road. Head leaders, of course, of the pack, the guys up in front, they've decided to stay out. At least most of them have. Ethan Lane this time by, going to make a call to get a little further back out. He'll go down to pit road for the first time today. 3 extra sets of rubber. So not a lot of drivers making the call to go down to pit road. They want to be a little bit more conservative with their strategy. Lane, however, is going to put himself at the back of the field and take an early gamble. Ethan will come out with Ryan Bean, the 51 of Tom Wetmore, the 61 of John DeBarro, and with them, Matt Sizzler. Matt with an opportunity to gain, of course. He doesn't have to worry about what's going on for Nolan Potter. He's only got to face off directly against Ross Cato, who came out of pit road after him, and Jared Davis. Davis up to 4th, and this is going to benefit him, making some slight moves up the ladder again. He fell back on the immediate start, 3rd to 4th. He has not lost his edge over his playoff rivals here. Davis, Tarbuck, Nieto, and Blake Cannon, the leading man, as we are set to go back to green at lap number 6. Driver still heading into pit road just ahead of your leading pack. There's Aaron Eads getting some damage repair. Matt Jonas also getting the front end fixed up. Kyle Cooper, Eli Cars, and more of the like. Kyle's going to be side by side here as they race their way out. Josh Gallagher coming with. Blake going to lead this first restart. Ethan Lane, while not qualifying at the back of the field, will send himself further down the line. He'll be 13th place here, so he'll have to go for the mid-pack up. Over the last 2 races, of course, 26th for Ethan Lane. He qualified last night, and he was able to make his way back up into the podium conversation. Michigan qualified in 32nd, and he ended up finishing 2nd. I mean, what a driver Ethan Lane has been. He's set to win the regular season championship, bar a huge disaster. Nick Tarbuck pulled a few points back last week, but it looks like it's going to be all Ethan Lane from this point. Double file all the way down. Sam Nieto leading 28 on the lead lap as we get back to work. Cannon going to be racing with teammate Tom Wetmore tonight. Both of the Roadhouse Racing guys are locked into the playoffs. Tom with 2 wins, Blake with 1. Tom has been great at all these special events. All of the Grand Marquis races on the schedule. He won both Crown Jewels, of course, Daytona to open the season, and our longest race in Charlotte. So perhaps, with the prestige of Indianapolis, he could do it again, and if not, his teammate is ready for the taking. The field returns green under the control of Blake Cannon. Let's get back to work now as it'll be Cannon leading Sam Nieto. Barney the flagman waves him green. We're back on our way, shuffling on the inside further back, but the leaders are toe-to-toe and 2 by 2. Up through the gears, Cannon has a car length. Side by side early. Woody Mahan with Brian Yazik. Watch for Brent McClendon in the number 21. He's now made it up 18 places to go 27th to 9th in only 6 laps. A great start from the McClendon crew. Nicholas Ward putting the pressure on Matt Sizzler to move and force it 3 wide to the inside. Not able to get there. The middleman in, of all drivers, Matt Sizzler making it through. Sean Canelist on the outside fades back. And while Ward keeps up the pressure, he wasn't able to make the pass. 36 of Fife, falling back to 18th here. Las Vegas race winner, locked into the playoffs, but it looks like some early struggles for your 15th place qualifier. Jacob coming off of last night where he needed to succeed. It's between he and Braxton Deweese for the Ignite Series playoff battle. They are right on the needle, those 2 drivers. Jacob, the league owner, and of course the defending champion in Deweese. For both of them, I didn't think they expected to be in that situation where they're in a tricky spot right now in that series for a playoff spot. Jacob doesn't have to worry about that here in the Octane Series, where he's had regularly more success when it comes to getting to victory lane. He achieved that earlier this year, and now it's all about riding it out until it matters more again. Boomer Logan has gone from 29th to 12th, making up 17 places. This is his best run of the year across both series. Not often does a Boomer take to the track for the full race, and it looks like tonight it's going to be time for the number 94 team to shock the world and get up there. Boomer getting up to the front of the field for the first time all year, and exciting to see this Ford Mustang going toe-to-toe now with John DeBarro. John gets to the inner groove, sailing down to the inside. He'll try to go for position. This would be for the 14th place as Ryan Bean got by for 13th. Up top, DeBarro makes the pass. So for Logan, holding out gets him all these positions, and he's up inside the top 15 conversation. 8 laps in out of 80. Blake Cannon leads the way with Sam Nieto now chasing Nick Tarbuck. Nick has gotten it up to P2. He qualified 4th. Sam for P3 qualified 5th. And so far, not a lot of big movers inside of your top 10. The only exception is Brant McClendon. Brant opted not to take a qualifying time, and yet he has found success in breaking away from the pack behind him. He leads now. He is 17 places up on where he started, and it's ahead of the likes of Wetmore, Patton, Ward, and Jacob Fife, and looks to be doing it effortlessly now with nobody around him. Unbothered and in control, Brant McClendon holds on to a top 10 placement. As to the inside now, Ryan Bean goes on Woody Mahan and brings with him John DeBarro. John makes it a 2-for-1 pass, and it looks like for Mahan, he'll get moved around. Ryan Bean bought the pass. John DeBarro got it free, and they'll go for a double as the 49 at Mahan falls now another spot behind. Tom Wetmore's watching and waiting. We'll see what he can do from here. 10 laps in out of 80. Front runners are, for the most part, pretty distant. Ethan Lane now for the 6th spot on the racing circuit. He's made his gains. He started 13th on this run. Now he finds himself up to 6th. 7 spots gained over the course of this run. Nate Campbell, 3rd in the championship, is looking for a major redemption. And of course, the last few weeks, that's what he's looking to put himself out from. Not the best of races, particularly last week in the triple overtime shenanigans. He got caught up with some late race damage, and Nick Tarbuck, who has been his biggest rival in points all throughout the season, able to extend the gap. And not only that, Blake Cannon is now only 14 points away from going 3rd in the championship over the rookie. While Campbell has been thoroughly impressive, so far the 45 has hit a little bit of a plateau as he still waits to find a way to victory lane. 4 top 5s, 10 top 10s, 2 stage wins, and yet to this point not a pole nor victory as Lane shaken up by the 45 of Campbell. Couldn't get it there. And Nate, while putting on the offense, isn't going to take that pass once again. A switchback is not going to happen, and so now it's going to be Ethan Lane coming across the stripe for 5th place. Lane's got it. Jared Davis better watch out. Take a ride on board now with the Davis machine and see from his rearview mirror what he's got to be looking at. Here comes Ethan Lane, coming right out of turn 4 and putting it to the inside across the start-finish line. Ethan makes no mistake of it. He wants that spot, and he'll take it as fast as he can get it. Lane to 4th. Ethan, pole sitter. He's now found himself outside of the top 5 for the majority of the night, and yet he's made his way all the way back up. He's only got himself a little bit further to go. Sam Nieto will be the first of which. Let's see what happens now as Nieto has to try to block to maintain the podium. Single file train all the way down the line. The Freightliner number 2 of Nieto, of course, having a great season so far in both the Ignite and Octane series, particularly becoming a little bit of a Monday night standout. He's one of the drivers doing double duty this year, and while for the most part in his Integrity Racing League career, he has been only a Tuesday night guy. That's been a little bit different as of late. He's locked into the Monday night playoffs, and he is still looking to lock himself in on Tuesdays here. He'll fall out of the podium as Ethan Lane makes it look easy, but he's still running 4th. Tonight, it looks like he's got the potential to lock himself in officially and make it both series where he will chase after a championship. Nieto, a multi-time winner in the Integrity Octane Series, is looking to break the drought of victory. While he won in the Ignite Series, the Octane Series has remained elusive since 2023. For reference, Nieto is 72 points above the cut line. So he is in a very, very solid spot so long as he doesn't find himself in a race-ending wreck. And so long as he finishes inside the top 20 tonight, it looks like he's going to be able to hang on to that points buffer and not worry himself all too much about what's next on the schedule. Jared Davis trying to get there on Nieto. Can't get there just yet. The distance has been cut. The pass hasn't been made. Neither has any attempt. And so it's going to be a little bit of a standstill. We'll see if these drivers get back to work and put themselves at it. But so far, Cody Smith has been driving his way up. Smith, 16th to 9th. Brant McClendon moved back to 11th. And it looks like he might fall one step further as John Zabarro comes charging into the race. He's trying to go for P11 to move Brant one spot further down. John DeBarro continuing to chase after McClendon. Distance has been cut. Brant, for a while there, had more than a second to his own. Nobody really close ahead, nobody really close behind, and right now it looks like that quick lane forward, not the same situation. Getting a little bit tighter out there. Perhaps a little bit closer than he would like it to be. Either way, Brant with a very impressive strategic call early to get himself up and ahead, and it looks like he's made the best of it so far. The biggest mover in this race, although Boomer Logan would like to have a word, he's gained 14, going from 29th. Great to see this out of Boomer Logan again, a driver who has not been on the racetrack most this season. He's done a lot behind the scenes in helping us out to keep the ball rolling for the Ignite and Octane Series and some race control work as well. But it looks like today they're letting him back out there, and he is doing very well for a driver that hasn't stepped foot in a full-time capacity in over a year. Logan looks well prepared tonight and is running right behind Wetmore and still ahead of Ward and Fife, two very, very strong winning caliber drivers. Boomer Logan showing his stuff so far. Not surprised, of course, to see that. Anyone in this field really has a fair shot at winning. Just depends on the track, depends on the night. It's a very competitive field from beginning to end. And speaking of competition, Ethan Lane just getting ahead of Nick Tarbuck now. Lane is not only inside the podium, but now firmly within it. His only other goal is to take the race lead from Blake Cannon, and he's hoping to do that before we get down to the halfway point. Ethan Lane, 9/10 back on leader Cannon. Nick Tarbuck in third, Sam Nieto in fourth. Now these drivers are spread apart, particularly Sam Nieto, who finds himself just about a second behind Tarbuck, and that's really when the drivers further back fall behind. Zach Schrintenol takes it up into 8th place. He finds himself 4 seconds back on leader Cannon and Lane. Brian Yazik 3 seconds behind for the time being. Brian having a breakaway from Schrintenol, but Cody Smith has gotten the gap even tighter. Cody and Schrintenol going to battle for it. Cody Smith starting tonight, 16th place, gaining 7 to get to 9th, and so it looks like now he's in the single digits and is anticipating another pass. Ryan Bean has also been able to make it back up. He found himself in the mid-teens to start this restart run, and he's back in 10th. Qualified 9th today, so he would be par in the single digits. Bean will continue to trail after Cody Smith here, as Brant McClendon has been able to break out a little bit further ahead of John DeBarro over the last few laps. DeBarro, 54.2 that time by, 54 flat for Brant McClendon, so he'll gain just about a quarter of a second over that last cycle. Each of these 2.5 mile runs, those corners make the difference. If you're smooth in, you're smooth out. And now it appears, well, Brant McClendon has himself working a real nice run, and he's gotten himself back in that rhythm. Fell a little bit further behind, but it looks like all those previous worries have come to pass, and McClendon is still holding forward. 8th to 17th of all the drivers who qualified in the top 10, it looks like unfortunately Nicholas Ward is the outlier who has fallen behind. Ward, who has had his strongest Octane Series season to date, is having an off run so far. 10 spots down on where he wants to be, of course, qualifying position of 8th. And outside of the top 10, Jacob Fife most recently got by him, and it looks like Ward is going to fall further behind. Nicholas just got up to 7th of the championship standings after another strong run. Ward, that's the highest position he's ever been in the regular season standings. It looks like he's going to have to clamp down on Ross Cato, but he's just losing grip here. And I think that's indicative of having older rubber, and that's really not helping him out in the slightest right now. So Nicholas Ward going to have to pull it together pretty soon. Most drivers are rolling old rubber, but it looks like for Ward, it just hasn't worked out. Taking a look at Ethan Lane up at the head of the field. Ethan, the gap between he and leader Cannon is now 0.3 of a second over the first quarter of this race. Cannon has led the majority. But Ethan Lane is now right there, and as they go up and down the back straightaway, I don't think there's a way you can cut off Ethan Lane. Blake Cannon has been pretty solid. And I think pretty solid is underselling it. He's hit his marks lap after lap. If it wasn't for Ethan Lane, he'd be the outright fastest driver on the field. Up and down the front straightaway again, trying to cut the draft from Ethan Lane. Hasn't quite worked. That time by for Blake Cannon, it was a 54.193. Ethan Lane, 53, now a 54.131. So a little bit of tire degradation. Nevertheless, these two drivers are right on each other pace-wise. But Ethan Lane is still faster. Cannon will do everything in his power now to try to maintain his pace and cut down Ethan's. If they go up and down the track consistently, Lane won't have time to worry about making an overtake. He's just trying to take the draft and increase his top speed all the way. Cannon is trying to do the work. Ethan Lane wants Cannon to do the work, but he also doesn't want to concern himself with Cannon going up and down as he tries to make an overtake. Blake uses every inch of the racetrack. It's all real estate to hang on, and so far that's exactly how Blake has worked the circuit. Ethan Lane skates up high slightly. Jared Davis is now toe-to-toe with Sam Nieto, and that's going to be a move for 4th place. Jared on the outside is going to pull through a little bit quicker down the back straightaway, and Sam Nieto pulls him back. Side drafting down through the corner. Jared tries to force the block. Oh, Davis! It is bumper to bumper now, and Sam Nieto will not be forgiving. Davis sliding through turn 3. Hits the wall now, and it is tense. Davis tries to lean back into Sam Nieto. How far will he lean? Nieto gets the overtake. And Nate Campbell is right there. Look now, as it's going to be side-by-side advantage Sam Nieto. Campbell gets by Davis. Riskier racing here from both parties. Oh my goodness, look at those two drivers go. Davis leaning on Nieto, and Nieto leaning right back. It's a miracle both of them didn't get involved with each other. And that's the type of racing that is all about discipline. You don't have it, you won't have it. And just like that, it'll be gone in a flash. Two great drivers who again show that even when you're on the limit, you can give some respect. I don't think Sam Nieto nor Davis are particularly happy about how that played out, but if someone is less happy, yeah, it's going to be Jared Davis. He wants those positions, and he wants to get him back his way. Blake Cannon has kept Ethan Lane at bay, and it looks like swerving back and forth is distracted Lane enough and taking that momentum out of him that he can't make the move back. Dirty air dispelled across the number 6 front end. And that dirty air is such a huge thing, and this is something that was discussed by drivers last weekend at the Brickyard 400. If you control the air, you control the race. Blake Cannon is able to make sure that the aerodynamics of the 44 are what dictate the performance of Ethan Lane here. If you take a look off the back end, the only thing that Lane can do is try to stay in the wake of the 44. If he does that, he'll be towed up the line, but when you're going back and forth, swerving through those straightaways, you're losing that straight momentum. You're losing that straight speed and putting more power into taking those turns. Consequently, you wear yourself out more, you're working at the tires more, and Ethan Lane is showing that maybe those consequences are coming into the picture more than ever before. He's now 6/10 back and loses another set again. Zach Schrintenall, 8th place. Watching behind as Brant McClendon passed by John DeBarro. DeBarro now has his sights set on the top 10 and Ryan Bean. "26 laps in, out of 80. Pit stops expected for the field at about lap 40 here. Even as we add that early caution, the majority of the field is going to be going by that original strategy playbook, which means that halfway is very likely going to be the move for the beginning of our strategy calls. Lap 40 is going to be the way to go, and that means that you're going to see drivers come in for one pit stop, halfway point, and go the way out for the rest of the night. If you stay under green, go in at halfway, then from there, just run out the race. Fuel won't be the issue, I don't believe. I think these drivers have enough in the tank to go for some 45 laps at the absolute most, but tire will, of course, be tire life in concern. Jacob Fife that time by ran a 54.679. Interestingly enough, if you compare that to his fastest laps, not too far off. His quickest is a 54.145. Let's compare that to someone like Blake Cannon, however. Cannon's fastest is a 53.608, and he just ran a 54.255. So the degradation is about 3/4 of a second across all drivers, and I think you might see fall off of upwards of a second by the time this run comes to a close. Tire wear is real, but what's realer now is that Ethan Lane is coming back up the way, and he's looking for the lead again. Ethan holding fort. Just 4/10 of a second behind Blake Cannon. A little bit of a stutter out of two. You might have seen him back off ever so, but he'll just let the toe of the back straightaway do the work to keep him in the picture. Nick Tarbuck has gotten away from Sam Nieto. Nieto still leads Campbell, but Jared Davis is right there, and he has not let up. Jared to the inside, and he just sneaks it in through turn 4, and that's all he needed. Campbell lifts, and when you give away that line, you effectively give away that spot. Jared Davis going now for 5th. Jared stays on the inside here, nearly clipping down to the apron. Oh, nearly contact again. Shades of what could have been between Sam Nieto and Davis. This time around, the 19 finds it close, door to door with the 45. Dicey, but no harm, no foul, as they'll enter 3 and 4 again. Davis, I think, would still have the advantage coming down the front straightaway if he works 4 well. He'll get up to the middle of the groove and try to give himself just enough room. Look again, Nate Campbell is trying to keep him honest. Down to the stripe, it's only going to be a few thousandths of a second. And at the line, no clear advantage. That time by Jared Davis was behind by 6/1000ths of a second. Ooh, Campbell brushes the wall and Davis at once. He'll try to go for a switchback. The 45 gets under. And just barely. Nate Campbell, inch for inch, gets all the room he needs. And Jared Davis gives him not an inch more. Here comes Brian Yazik. Yazik to the inside for a 3-wide pass. The 55's got the run. He's got the speed and the placement. 2 for 1? Not quite. Yazik still there, brushing against Nate Campbell, and they remain 3 wide. Nate Campbell, the man in the middle, watches as Jared Davis surges on the outside groove, and now Yazik fades away. Here comes Zach Schrintenall. Does Zach have enough now to contest Nate Campbell? He's right to his back bumper. What is he going to do? Lays off through 1. Lets Campbell get back in his rhythm, but now Zach back up to 7th. He qualified 6th today and is trying to gain at least enough to start and finish in the same place. Brian Yazik falls back to 9th, and it looks like that aggression doesn't end up fitting him too well. Tail end of the fight, Jared Davis holds forward in 5th. For Jared here, 5th place, very strong run. This is the type of performance he needs to make it into the playoffs. Now, the playoff picture is far from settled with 2 races remaining, but there's a fair few drivers who we expect are going to make it in, even if they are not locked. Take a look on your screen right now, and you'll see exactly the who's who coming into our penultimate race. Ethan Lane, Tom Wetmore, Blake Cannon, Jacob Fife, all of which locked in. And then you got guys further back who are pretty solid on points. You'll have Nick Ward, Brad Patton, Nick Tarbuck. Of course, those drivers very familiar with being up in front. Nate Campbell, Sam Nieto, and Ryan Bean are all looking to lock themselves in tonight. They are upwards of 60 points ahead on the cut line, which is effectively a race's worth of points. As such, as the caution flies, they're going to be effectively locked in. We've got an issue, though, and we're about to find out what just happened. Caution is out, and we're taking a look why. And one of those incidents that we did not expect to see a long, strong run, but this is going to pull the majority of the field anyway to pit road. And you can see here Gallagher coming through the billowing smoke. It's Boomer Logan. And horrible for Logan because he was having such a great run, but the 94 sees trouble as we get close to our halfway point. Watch this. Loose on his own and overcorrects up the track. Luckily, just a kiss on the wall, and he should be good to continue. But the High Noon Ford Mustang sees problems. Yellow flags out. Minimal damage for Boomer Logan, as it will be Blake Cannon who brings the field into pit road for the second time tonight for some, for the majority the very first. One thing's for certain, we're going to see pit stop strategy tonight. And it's coming here and now. Four tires and fuel, the recipe. We're going to be on the bleeding edge of this being the end-all be-all for the night. Blake Cannon decides to stay out, and everyone else goes in. What a shock call from the 44. Cannon perhaps is expecting more cautions down the line. Everyone else goes for the more conventional decision, and they're all going to make their way into pit road. Look at that train following Ethan Lane. And Cannon will be the lone outlier here as we pull up to your pit road exit camera. Watch this. Cannon, Stevenson, Don is a lapper, as is Aaron Eads, who also stayed out. The only driver on the lead lap who decides to stay out there is Blake Cannon. He will be one of one. Four tires and fuel. Let's see what happens here. Ethan Lane will come across the line. It'll be then Tarbuck second, Sam Nieto third, Ryan Bean, Zach Schrinthenold, Jared Davis, Nate Campbell, and Tom Wetmore with John DeBarro, P10 off of pit road. Going to be Cannon, the overall race leader. Winner off of pit road is Ethan Lane. He'll catch up to the 44, and Lane will now go against Cannon. Blake having old rubber to kick this off. Don Stevenson cycling himself up to get a lap back. That's the end goal. He's currently 8 laps down following an earlier incident. And your 30th place driver here having a night far from desirability. He is only 25 points up on the cut line. Tom Wetmore last night had perhaps one of the worst nights of his season and was in a very similar position in the championship standings. For Tom, 2 weeks ago, he found himself 20 points up on the cut. Next week, going into the final race of the regular season in the Ignite Series, he is only 2 points up. Stevenson to pit road. He'll bow out. It will be Cannon leading as we get to business. One lap to green. We'll head back at it for lap number 36. Blake Cannon will be followed by Tarbuck, and with him, immediately thereafter, is the driver of the number 26, Ryan Bean. Ethan Lane has Sam Nieto and Zach Schrintenol, and your front row to begin this race is back together again, only in opposite position. Lane, your pole sitter, will start this restart second. Cannon, who started P2, grabs the overall pole. "28 drivers still on the lead lap, the last of which Kyle Cooper, collecting himself now and joining the leaders again. Cody Smith also coming off a pit road here, 20th place at the scoring loop last time by. He finds himself a little bit further back now, and Cody in the number 18 machine is scored officially in 21st. He gets out of pit road again. Topping off on fuel, giving himself just a little bit more than everyone else. We'll see if that extra lap comes in handy. It depends on how the rest of this race plays. So far, 2 cautions, minor incident that time by, and it could be from here to the end at the discretion of the field. Blake Cannon has held Ethan Lay at bay all night long from this point on. The second half changes a driver, changes every driver. The aggression's up. The time is now, and you got less opportunity to wiggle your way out of mistakes. It's in the do-or-die moments where the best drivers rise to the occasion. Cannon is looking for only his second win on the season, while Lane looks for victory number 9. Inside, sees a little bit of trouble further back, but there's no worry for the leaders as Blake Cannon gets away. Lane is due to follow, but there's no match for the 44. Lane is back to his previous tactics, up and down the front straightaway, bringing with him Sam Nieto and company, and this is where you begin to see that fight for every position like maybe we haven't seen it beforehand. Here comes Jared Davis, all right, and Nate Campbell. These two drivers were side by side right before our last caution, and so they begin again. Jared to the inside on the 45 of Campbell, toe to toe. Sweeping up and down, you got 5 drivers chasing after Cannon, and they're all putting the effort in to go up and down with them, particularly Ethan Lane, of course. He's the man of the hour who keeps on going. Tom Wetmore, 12th to 9th. John Zabaro. Now, for Yazik, it's a battle between those two for 10th. Brian Yazik has been on the cusp of the top 10 and was showing some aggression right before the yellow as well. Tried to move up to as high as 7th, ended up sifting back to 9th. Regardless, the 55 holds himself right where he needs to be. He's got the inside, which has been advantageous for most. Meanwhile, Ethan Lane, very close as Blake Cannon wiggles up out of 4. A rare mistake for the 44 team. Cannon falters. Ethan Lane. Oh, Jared Davis drifting in the back. We got a big wreck. Caution's out. And Davis might have just seen his race go up in smoke. With championship implications, the 19 makes a huge mistake, and multiple drivers end up paying a price. Jared gets to the inside of Campbell, And it looked like through 3, he had the edge. Was it Campbell's backside contact that could have done it, or did Davis just get loose? Oh, to the inside on Trentinel. Tried to make the pass and overcorrects it right up the circuit again. Makes contact with Matt Sizzler. Then Josh Gallagher, Matt Jonas. And it is a smoke show for everyone trying to make it through. Brent McClendon has to slow it down. Eli Cars with damage. Ross Cato at a standstill as well. Wow. I mean, it was a parking lot. The 96 of Gallagher having trouble getting out of it. But for Jared Davis and his championship shot, he can't afford to have any more damage than he already does. 22nd now at the back of the field. All that track position lost and right front contact. Davis is in a very bad position. Oh my goodness. We got trouble under caution. Wetmore and Yazik, is this intentional or did they just get into each other? Tom Wetmore and Brian Yazik at each other under yellow. We're pulling back the replay to see, as it looks like now you've got some issues even while we're not racing. Watch this. Taking a brief look back at the 51 of Wetmore and figuring out whether or not that was any incidental contact or if something else came of it. We're going to take a look on that whole lap here, because the 55 of Yazik and the 51 of Wetmore didn't look to be involved with each other all throughout. And yet now you see problems. And I don't think it was intentional based on the way they reacted here. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm seeing. So with that being said, this shouldn't be too much of a concern. Pulling it back. At this point, drivers are already heading down to pit road. You see Jared Davis there. Zach Schrintenol as well. Zach getting a little bit of contact, nothing too major, and it shouldn't be an immense concern for him. He currently runs 21st place as he gets back on the way here, so I think Zach's going to be able to continue. It was Davis who sliced down to the inside, Schrintenol not giving adequate room. I don't think he expected Davis to find the room to even make it in there, and so Schrintenol ended up making that contact. So now, 39 laps in out of 80, as Schrintenol gets up there, we're going to take a better look at the situation between Wetmore and Brian Yazik. And I don't think it was much of an intentional situation, but Wetmore turned under caution. This has happened to him before. Richmond in 2023, a race he ended up winning, mind you. He spun and hit the entry of pit road. He hit the barrier on the way in and got away with light enough contact that victory was still his. We'll take a look through 3 and 4 and see why. Tom went to the inside of Ethan Lane. Looking low. Lane was there as well. And it looks like as Tom goes up here, not getting a proper read on anything else. 55 and the 51 right there. Brian Yazik right behind Tom Wetmore. That didn't even appear to be the moment of truth. So with that said, either way, Tom Wetmore is going to find himself on the outside. Brian Yazik in the 55 there as well. Some minor contact, if anything. Both drivers get away and remain on the podium. 40 laps in out of 80. Your first half has come to pass. 40 laps to go when we return green. Wetmore in the best position he's had all night long, looking for his third win, while teammate Blake Cannon, well, he currently finds himself quite far back relative to his teammate. A little bit of a swerve there from Brad Patton. Brad tonight qualifying 26th. He's made it up to P5, 21 places gained. Boomer Logan, 29th to 6th, up 23. How about that for this 94 team? Boomer again on the up and up. That is remarkable. And you can see really clear Logan having the night of his season. He's in the top 5 conversation now. Let's see if he can do anything with it. Logan and Patton on that third row. Yazik DeBar the second. Tom Wetmore will watch as Ethan Lane once again takes the reins. Your leader for the first 40 laps of racing now takes the restart again to bring us through for the final 40. Second half's on the way. Lane and Wetmore your top 2. Ethan Lane legs it out to an automatic start ahead of the rest of the field. Nobody else even close. Sam Nieto racing tight with Nicholas Ward there, and Ward putting some lockdown defense on that number 2. Sam gets pushed back as Boomer Logan now goes to the outside. Logan tries to surge and get that run, but either way, Sam pulls tight to the bottom and gets it right back on the 94 again. Jacob Fife to the inside. Fife low, Blake Cannon lower. Lower indeed, as he was starting this run at 13th and is already looking to get inside the top 10. Here comes Blake Cannon, dropping to the inside. Blake's got himself where he needs to be if he wants to hold fort for a top 10 run. Brent McClendon in the wall very briefly. He'll scrape it up high, but it looks like minimal damage, and he'll get away. Jared Davis likewise also getting up in the wall there. Jared 3rd to 24th, and while he's still on the lead lap, he's lost an awful lot, and the damage is only going to propel him backward here. That's the issue. Jared can stay on the track as long as he wants, but he's not going to have too many chances to pull track position unless a lot of other drivers make mistakes ahead of him. Ethan Lane and company ahead, well, they're in a completely different realm. Wetmore has the company, Ethan Lane doesn't, and take a look now as Brad Patton splits it. Going high, you saw John DeBarro going low. John couldn't handle on for much else, but it'll be Brad Patton putting on the pressure. Nick Tarbuck to his inside. Brad finally getting to victory lane this year at the new Atlanta Motor Speedway, coming away for a podium last week, and now looking for what could be 3 consecutive. All of a sudden, Brad Patton has become the de facto best driver of the month, and with 2 podiums already, a 3rd would really make him the best man of July. That victory being so critical, then coming away with a top 3 finish, I mean, Patton is a strong driver, and we've known that now for a long time. But one thing that he's done that's really challenged him is when he knows he's locked into the playoffs, which he's been for a while now, even with the win notwithstanding, he goes out and decides not to qualify. So tonight, Brad started 26th, and he started there because he didn't end up taking a qualifying time, so he had the first stall of any driver who didn't take a lap. Outside the top 25, that meant for him that he had to make his way up and work the strategy, avoid the majority of the pack, get away from the trouble, and get to this point. There's been a few cautions in between, but regardless, the fact he's done it, of course, battling through the green flag portions and making use of strategy just goes to show the levels of talent under that 7 team's hood. And of course for Patton here, the end goal is to go for another win. Brad looking for his first multi-win season in the Integrity OCTANE Series. And only a few weeks ago, finally getting through to get back to victory lane again. And here comes to the inside, Blake Cannon on Nicholas Ward. High side, low side, Ward is loose. He'll save it. Nicholas Ward with a great save. Take a replay and watch it from his perspective. Contact, brushing up against Cannon and keeping the power down at about 140 miles an hour and only immediately losing 1 position. And he still defends against Jacob Fife. That is driving. And not only that, but proper wheeling it through the corner and keeping Fife at bay. The defense still locked tight, and Nicholas Ward will not be denied as he hangs on to 9th place. very strong performance from Ward so far today. Qualifying 8th and keeping himself saved means he still has a chance here to go higher. Tom Wetmore chases after Brad Patton. You got Patton here, Nick Tarbuck, then you got 18th to 5th in John DeBarro. John has made up 13 places. A remarkable night, of course, for the 61 crew as well. John is still looking for that breakout race. He's had a few solid performances strung together this season, but overall, the first top 5 has still been his most elusive dream of chasing it. John isn't quite there yet. But tonight, with where he's running right now and time running down, there's a real opportunity for DeBarro at long last to make a difference and get himself in. John is 31 points under the cut line, and a top 5 finish would most likely bring him upwards of 10 points closer coming toward our regular season finale. Those are points he desperately needs if he really wants to go for it. I think right now, with the way he's been driving, it's very realistic. 18th place he qualified, but he's running far better than an 18th place driver or a mid-packer at that. Cannon to the inside. Blake will very quickly take 5th place from him. And it looks like Blake is looking to join his Roadhouse Racing teammate and Tom Wetmore up inside the podium places. So far, it's been all Tom for the P2 race. It hasn't been much of a challenge. Wetmore's been able to hang on. Brad Patton has been onlooking. Nick Tarbuck has been chasing after Brad, and so on and so forth. With Blake Cannon now getting a little bit more of that power back and that fire inside the cockpit. Caution's out. Yellow flag flies again, and it's going to be Eli Cars in the 82. Watch this. Eli sliding into turns 1 and 2. And it looks like opening corner a little bit loose. Then from there, making it around. Just a little bit of trouble again. You can see the signs that he was running out of grip there. He runs behind Richard Smith, so this was about 21st place he was racing for. Eli drops down low. Not for a pass anyway. And slides ever so slightly out of 3. That catches him astray. He'll go into the grass, and it's a safety caution as he goes up the circuit. Luckily, hits nobody else. The caution's out with 33 laps to go. Now, the question is, will we see everyone go down to pit road? And there's a very real chance that happens. Ethan Lane would be the first of which to do so, if that is the case. Majority of the field going in during the mid-30s, laps 34 to 39 in the top 10. So this could be a prime opportunity just to top off and concern themselves as a field less with if they can make it to the end. And that is the consensus decision as Lane brings them in. Lap number 48, perhaps the most important pit cycle of the night. And everyone comes together. To the inside, Blake Cannon remains out, as does Nieto, Ward, Fife, Mahan, Bean, Shrintenol, Campbell, and Jared Davis. Nevertheless, Ethan Lane will pull him through, and he's right at his pole-sitting stall. Let's see who wins the race off pit road. Lane and Wetmore come out first and second. Then it's Brad Patton, Nick Tarbuck, John DeBarro, Richard Smith, Brian Yazik, Ross Cato, Boomer Logan, and Bobby Keith in successive order. Wetmore to be the final driver in the top 10 as we have our fair share of holdouts this time by, including Blake Cannon, Sam Nieto, Nicholas Ward, Jacob Fife, Woody Mahan, Ryan Bean, and Ethan Lane. Now on his way, the leader to catch up to those 6. Cannon looks to be taking the top side as we get back to business. With 32 laps remaining, we'd like to thank our friends at iRacing Motorsport Simulations, who now for 17 years have led online motorsport racing, and they're coming up with exciting products throughout this summer stretch. NASCAR 2025 is set to release in October for console fans of simulation racing, and summer sales at up to 64% for new members are still available. Visit iRacing.com to learn more and register, the world's leading online simulator. We'll be right back after a brief message from our friends at iRacing. Make sure to stay tuned and dial in on FTN Broadcasting, as we'll only have 30 laps to go from this point onward when we return under green. Cannon is your leader. We'll return right after this.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Blake Cannon and Sam Nieto, leaders of this restart. Sam is going to be given the inside as Blake Cannon opts to go up high. 30 laps remaining from this point. Still a fair deal of time at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but when you consider the fact that we have run upwards of 50 to this point, time is flying by on the racetrack. Can't take any moment for granted if you're leader of Cannon, of course. He and his teammate Tom Wetmore running a double top 10 day. Roadhouse Racing anticipating what could be twin top 5s. For most recent caution, you saw them running 2nd and 5th, which could very well happen again. Nate Campbell alongside Woody Mahan. Going to keep him in the running to stay top 5 of the championship, as Jared Davis's night has been off the par ever since he got involved with that right side damage. He's got himself in 26th as Blake Cannon gets back to business. No competition for Cannon off the jump. Watch now as Ethan Lane has to come from 10th place back to the head of the field. Already it's looking dicey for Lane on that higher side to Zach Strithenall. It won't be easy coming up from the mid-pack. Blake Cannon gets what he needs. He's got the track position and the clean air. When you have both of those combined, you are effectively unstoppable from the yard of bricks. That's how they'll roll right now, as with 30 laps remaining, Sam Nieto finds himself still P2. Ryan Bean keeping that number 97 of Ward at bay. And Jacob Fife here, keeping Nate Campbell just ahead of him. Wetmore getting squeezed in. Is Ethan Lane, the 51, is passed again. Tom now falls back to 8th. It's going to be Ethan Lane back to 7th. Jacob Fife, P6 from 15th in qualifying. Most recent incident on the day, for those of you just tuning in, Eli Cars through turn 3, sliding up the track. The 82 is back on the racing circuit and should be good to continue. However, it was, of course, Eli going through the grass and coming up, which prompted a safety caution on the racetrack. 29 laps to go. Cars is still with us here. Minimal damage. Getting new tire was all he needed to continue on the way. And you'll see still a little bit shaky, but no problems right now for Eli. Up at the head of the field, single file. Brian Yazik is now going toe-to-toe with Zach Strithenall, as is Cato with Boomer Logan. Logan will not quit. He's got his sights set in the top 15, if not better. And now the 94 of Boomer Logan anticipates again an opportunity to take a spot. Brian Yazik down low, Boomer Logan up high. The pressure from Ross Cato mounting as well. Nearly contact between the 94 and 12. Ross Cato, a driver who's been for the most part this season on the chopping block as to whether or not he will make the playoffs, and he still is. Remember, Ross comes in on the needle tonight, 15th in the championship. The summer stretch has been kinder to him than the opening months of the season, but nevertheless, for Ross Cato, it has not been enough to guarantee that he's going to go the distance here. He still needs some solid runs to be put together if he wants any firm shot of going out there and fighting for a title. Second in points in 2023, multiple playoff berths. Woody Mahan! Nope, he can't save it. Into Boomer Logan, the caution is out. Yellow flag flies for the 94 of Mahan. Contact briefly as he wiggles into Brad Patton. Patton shooting up into the wall. Mahan to the Boomer Logan. Caution's out. Take a ride on board now with the number 49 and see what it was like from the driver's perspective. Mahan gets bent up, as does Boomer Logan, and horrible for Boomer, who's had such a great night. The front end now with a little bit of damage. First time. 26 laps to go. The field will cycle together with Blake Cannon, the race leader. If you've enjoyed tonight's coverage so far, well, we've still got the best of the race to come toward you right up next, as we're going to go for our final 25 laps, and most of which should be under green. Until that point, we'll bring you non-stop coverage and thank some of our partners and associates who bring the action to you live on FTN. We'll return right after this. There won't be any problems, of course, in bringing that green flag action, and on the right side of your screen, you'll see leader Cannon counting down the laps before we get back to business. iRacing official pace car giving the signal 2 laps to green this time around. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Thank you for tuning in to the Integrity OCTANE Series from the Brickyard. We'll be right back after this.
This message is brought to you by the rebrand of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This publication may not be reposted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. NASCAR Camping World Ford F-150. NASCAR Xfinity Ford Mustang. NASCAR Cup Series Next-Gen Ford Mustang. Arca Menards. This has been the publication of the redesign and rebranding of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This message may not be reposted, republicated, or rebroadcasted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. Thank you, and thanks for your time.
Welcome to the Underdog Racing Podcast, where we talk to NASCAR drivers from all over the great country of America. Each week, we chat about the latest races, share stories from the track, and get to know the drivers behind the wheel. We break down the action, hear from drivers about their experiences, and dive into what drives them to keep racing. Whether you're a longtime NASCAR fan or just curious about the sport, this is the place for you. So tune in to the Underdog Racing Podcast, your inside look at the world of NASCAR. Catch us every Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern.
Boundless makes its presence felt. It will not be ignored. We're helping turn ideas into reality with a wealth of building products that take every architectural style to the next level. This is what it's like to imagine, build, and transform anything we want into exactly what we seek. This is what it means to be boundless.
1 lap to green, 23 laps to go, and we're back to business. It's going to be Blake Cannon and Sam Nieto again, the leaders on the restart line. And of course, for Cannon, he's got to watch out as his main racing rival, of course, Ethan Lane, is back in the top 5. Lane now getting himself in a significantly better position, of course, to go out there and win this one. It's taken him a long while. He's been up and down throughout the top 10, but hasn't particularly been the outright leading man for just about any of this race so far. That, of course, could change as we are set to go racing once again. Cannon has held Ethan Lane off very well to this point. We'll see now whether or not all that is for any reason, if it matters, or if these final 24 laps will tell a different story from the opening some 57. iRacing official pace car set to let go. Any cautions after lap 75 will automatically take us into overtime. We have up to 3 attempts available for every, of course, race. Last week we used all 3, which was the first time at Dover we went to triple overtime, in which Nick Tarbuck took race victory. If you've enjoyed tonight's coverage so far, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in so far tonight. The job's not done for any driver in the field, and we are set to get back to business with the most exciting stretch, the home stretch left. Regular season championship has not yet been decided. Ethan Lane with the win could officially punch that ticket. Nick Tarbuck with another win, back-to-back victories, could keep himself in the race. Here we go, 23 laps to go from this point onward. Cannon gets the jump. Blake breaks away. Ryan Bean and Nicholas Ward, Ethan Lane, all side by side as they get back to speed. Camera work tonight brought to you by Whiplash Sim Cams, and as always, got to give a major shout out to our friends who have made these cameras and brought us on for the ride. The Pit Stop TV team extending us and welcoming us into the Pit Stop TV and Whiplash SimCams family for 2025 and beyond. We are grateful to be here. The best iRacing cameras on the market with no licensing fees attached. Car and track packs coming in at $5 a piece respectively. Once you have it, it's yours. There's no way it can be taken back. With that being said, 22 laps to go now from the Brickyard, and so we won't talk all too much about the product. We'll let it speak for itself. Ethan Lane glides wide but gets himself back into business, and with the best camera angles in sim racing, let's crank it up from the yard of bricks. 22 laps to go. Let's get loud and proud from Indianapolis. Whiplash SimCams, provider of tonight's camera packs at all angles throughout the 2025 Integrity Racing League seasons. Now, tell you this much, Blake Cannon, Ethan Lane, once again together, and with less than 20 laps to go, there's no turning back, there's nowhere to hide, but there is a track to run through, 2.5 miles each and every circuit. Cannon still has the lead, but he's been clawed down. Last time by, Lane putting down a lap about a half a tenth quicker, and now he's taking it up and down with that Indianapolis swoop through the circuit. He's still letting Cannon lead it. Further behind, it's going to be largely single file as well. Cody Smith right up there with Brant McClendon, however. McClendon previously running inside the top 10, now facing pressure. Cody Smith gets down low. He'll take a spot. Just like that with 17 laps remaining. It's going to be Cody making it around again. For Cody Smith, that will be P14. Brant McClendon now trying to fend off Ross Cato. Cato trying to get a top 15 run going again. He is right on the bubble. He's trying to outpace tonight Matt Sizzler, Jared Davis, and on the bubble alongside him, the number 12 is not alone. It's he and Nolan Potter. So far, Cato has stayed ahead of Nolan Potter, but now he's behind Jared Davis. And Davis has gotten his way again, even with the damage. It looks like he's not done. Davis has stayed resilient even with all the troubles that he's faced so far this race. Most of that right side damage has been brushed off, and now he's got a chance to overtake some drivers again and maybe make it back up to the back half of the top 10. Ideally for Davis, I think he would end up finishing in the lower single-digit places. Brant McClendon up the track. Trouble. And the call on, oh, it's got to be a caution. Has to be. Wow, Aaron Eads right into Brant McClendon, and Richard Smith and Kyle Cooper also get involved. Caution's out. It was a borderline issue, and then it became a clear-cut caution just like that. Watch from afar. McClendon didn't go through one particularly well, then going through turn two, just a nudge from Ross Cato, slips to the inside of the track, comes up, out of control by this point. And then Kyle Cooper slides, as does Richard Smith. Aaron Eads catches a piece. Cooper slides to the inside of the track. Richard Smith hitting the outer barrier. 4 drivers involved, 15 laps to go. We are at a standstill. We will have just about 12 laps to go when we go green from this point. Cannon and Lane remain top 2. Blake holding on. Ethan Lane not quite able to pull enough of the gap back in his favor. Oh. Oh no. Oh, we got trouble. Eli Carr is under caution. He just went around and gets into Ross Cato. What just happened? The 82 looks to be out of control. Take a look inside the cockpit. Not sure what that could have been. And he just got back on the way. But Eli Cars goes slipping and sliding. And he'll have to head down to pit road. Eli's got major suspension damage already. Ross Cato now comes to pit road himself. And we got them all coming in for the most important stop of the night now. The later it is, the more important it becomes. And just like that, you're watching as Ethan Lane brings the field down and in, the majority of which all together. Let's see what happens. 4 tires and fuel looks to be the recipe. It's highly likely Ethan will be the winner off pit road here. It's going to be close. Jacob Fife, by just a nose, is going to get ahead of Ethan Lane. And the gamble of the night has been made. Jacob Fife reintroduces himself. And that's what he's best known for doing in races like this. Late in the going, you can't count Jacob out. And he reminds the field of his presence with a striking call on pit road. 2 tires, and he gets ahead of Ethan Lane. Ryan Bean, Nicholas Ward, Nick Tarbuck, and Nate Campbell all come to follow. It'll be Fife now 7th with 6 holdout drivers. Blake Cannon, Sam Nieto, Tom Wetmore, Brian Yazik, Cody Smith, and Jared Davis. The 44 of Blake Cannon is going to hold out here. He's got the edge. But the tricky thing about it here is whether or not the rubber is going to hang on. Last going down to pit road about 20 laps ago. They came into laps 48 and 49, which means that got some age on it, and that's about a half second's worth of wear each lap. Is there enough of a buffer behind Cannon now to put that system together to maintain the lead? I'm not quite sure. We'll find out as we go green with 12 remaining. Side by side all the way down the ladder. Blake Cannon and Sam Nieto are once again front row mates for another restart. This combination has now come together 3 times over the span of 25 laps. Watch for Fife taking a risky call and looking for his 2nd win of the season. Ethan Lane has struggled to remain and return to the front of the field, and he's looking for his 9th victory. You got 25 on the lead lap. Don Stevenson, a lapper, getting back with him here. Still 8 laps down, and the yellow flags haven't helped him pull up all the way so far, just getting consistent damage repaired as he runs 28th. Majority of the field still with us. Aaron Eads is not a retiree, but has been on pit road for 17 laps. Matt Jonas and Nolan Potter are the only official done and done out of this race retirees. A dozen to do it. Cannon and Yazik hold them up high, and it'll be all about Sam Nieto and Tom Wetmore down low. Roadhouse Racing with their 2 leading men in the top 4. Wetmore just a row behind his teammate in Cannon. Blake, back to business. His teammate in Wetmore follows suit, but nobody can hold a candle to the control car. Green flag's out again, 12 laps remain. Yazik looking for a podium, and a critical one at that. Brian finds himself 19th in the championship standings. He is 97 points back on the cut line. For him, it's effectively win and you're in. But if you don't win, you're out. That's basically what it comes down to now if you're Yaz. And he's going to get himself ahead, but just slightly, of Tom Wetmore. Toe-to-toe now between the 51 and the 55. It's going to be dicey as Cody Smith is also in the mix. Cody looks low. Can't find the groove. Can't find the placement. Ethan Lane is up high. He's got no choice now as he's boxed up. What will he do? He chases Yazik. He tries to split the gap. He will! Oh, Tom Wetmore goes around and the field implodes. Tarbuck, Mahan, Logan, and it is a huge wreck down the line. Dare we say the biggest of the day, 11 laps to go, and a field killer. Wetmore and Lane right at each other's throat. And that opportunistic style of racing has its consequences. Not always do drivers get so lucky. It looks like tonight will be one of those where luck isn't in the favor of the 51. A great run for him today. But just like last night, In a critical scenario, Tom Wetmore caught up in the worst of it. He's locked into the playoffs, so it's not much of a concern. But either way, take a look at this. Zach Schrintenol, the third official retiree of the night. Ethan Lane splits at 3. Oh no! Registered contact, but as you might have seen there was no real contact, shall we say. So netcode involved as Wetmore felt a bump, and it shot him out of line. Tarbuck, Mahan, Bobby Keith, Matt Sizzler, and Boomer Logan all collected in the immediate aftermath. Sean Kalist hit as well. Horrible for those involved. And it looks like there was room for Lane. He didn't slam, or at least didn't intend to, but it was registered as a hit, and that's what takes Wetmore by the wayside. We will have, at most, 8 laps remaining under green. Ten laps to go. And it's been a dicey race. A lot of yellow flags, particularly in this second half. And after what was mostly a calmer race last week in Dover until the triple overtime, it looks like this race has been chaos from beginning to end. Cody Smith will bring in a few involved in that wreck. See Cody further back in the 18. We'll see what the call on the field is now. 2 to green. We'll go back with 7 laps remaining under green flag conditions. Cody Smith in the number 18, leading those of drivers, some of which are no longer going to be on the lead lap, down and in. Let's see what happens now for some of those on pit road. Richard Smith is going to stay on his way. There's Sean Kalist. There is Smith. And then you got further back McClendon, Logan, Fiash, Don Stevenson now trying to get himself back up with the leaders. Stevenson been 8 laps down for the majority of the day and trying to keep himself together with the pack. Ethan Lane is up to 3rd by virtue of that incident. He avoided it despite being part of that initial contact. And as a result, a shot for the lead is very realistic for Ethan Lane. Wouldn't be shocked. This 9th victory still in the cards. 8 wins on the season so far through 8 pole positions, his most recent collected today. And now with his poles and wins evened up, he has a chance to change that and take another checkered. .23 on the lead lap now, last of which is Boomer Logan, and Logan is unfortunately really torn up by this point. Boomer's had a remarkable night. He was up there racing inside the top 10. He's best of the season, best performance anyway, and it looks like now after a second incident he's been involved in, there's very little else he can do in the 94. Boomer's going to take it to pit road, try to keep on going, but contending up in front is a far cry from where he is now. Tom Wetmore, Sean Kalist, and among others, of course, you saw Woody Mahan and Bobby Keith collecting damage. We are now set to go green with 7 laps remaining. Any caution after this point was very likely to send us into overtime territory. We are at lap number 73. Cautions after lap 75, so 76 and beyond, those will take us into overtime racing, which is where we ended up last week. A natural green-white checkered can occur with a caution on lap 96. Anything after that point will extend this race. Blake Cannon and Sam Nieto again find themselves side by side on the restart line. It'll be their fourth opportunity to go at each other here. Nieto has kept himself very consistently where he needs to be, of course, alongside Cannon. It's not as if he has lost pace or the distance between he and the leaders has really grown. And it looks like right now, for Sam Nieto anyway, he shouldn't be all too concerned. I think a top 5 is very much in the cards for him, but I wouldn't be sure if it's going to be, for him anyway, a race victory. Sam is still looking for it. It would be his first of the Octane Series for him and his second of the year in the Integrity Racing League. And a hard-fought win it's going to have to be because he's got Cannon to his outside and Ethan Lane right behind him. The difference maker is this final stretch. After over 70 laps, those that remain are still facing the test of time. 7 laps to go. Blake Cannon has been leading these restarts with a commanding force each and every time by. He'll do the same again. Sam Nieto can't hold a candle. Yazik more of the same. Green flags out. Blake Cannon leads again. Ethan Lane already directly trailing Sam Nieto, but it looks like that direct trail will be for very little time. Ethan looks low, can't quite make the pass just yet. Nieto begins to block, and if there's any chance to hang on for P2, Nieto has to defend like his life depends on it. Ethan goes up high, he's already got his sights set clearly on Blake Cannon, and Nieto fades back, losing 2 positions at once. Lane for P2, 6 laps remaining. He's already up to the back bumper of Cannon, and Blake falters through turn 4. At the line, Ethan Lane already in control. Just 1 lap takes him from 3rd to 1st across the stripe. Blake Cannon get to the inside. Contact. Shades of last year. Michael Araya and Lane battled for the lead. Laraya ended up slammed to the wall. Ethan Lane cruised to victory. Now Lane finds himself on the inside, and he's going door to door, banging right against the 44 of Cannon. When you're on the inside, you're squeezed up there. There's nowhere you can go. Cannon is making sure Ethan knows that. There's no way out when you're on the bottom. Ethan reels it back in, brings it behind. He is set to regroup. 5 laps remaining from this point. The question becomes whether or not he's got what it takes from here. Blake Cannon, advantageous for the majority of the night, facing real pressure from Ethan Lane. Blake so far has been able to defend him, and even though now it's getting dicey, what point will be the limit? Will you see more contact? Will you see a wreck? What now for the Lane team? That's the big question. Sun shines once again through turns 3 and 4. Brian Yazik is going to go 11th to 3rd. Jarrett Davis 3rd through 4th. Nicholas Ward 8th to 5th. With Sam Nieto now fading back, and it looks like he's starting to run out of juice. That comes down to him being on older rubber. Reminder again that Blake Cannon is a holdout on some 20-lap-old rubber, and yet has made it work so far. 4 laps remaining. Ethan Lane and his new tire have gotten by everyone, but the only driver he's yet to go by controls the dirty air. He who leads has the total advantage over the field. If you can displace that dirty air to your competitors, you are set. Contact. Both drivers hit the wall there. Just a minor scrape. They'll continue on. Clean track. Clear skies. All ahead of Blake Cannon, but the pressure lies and mounts right behind him as coming to 4 laps to go. Ethan Lane is still there. Cannon has it where he needs to be, leading 0.4 of a second. Can Ethan Lane pull a half second back within 4 laps? Very likely, yes he can, but will he do it is the better question. Jacob Fife is now in 6th place, having a great run in the number 36 team, of course, already having a victory. And despite the fact he was involved with an incident, it looks like he's back up there, making the best of it. Nate Campbell is in 7th, Ryan Bean 8th, Brian Yazik, in a critical race for this team, is up inside the top 5 and still looking for an opportunity at the podium. Jared Davis is running 3rd. A reminder, Davis found himself with significant right side damage. Now he's buffed it out, and he's back where he qualified. For Davis tonight, he's outperforming all of his bubble battlers, including Ross Cato, Nolan Potter, and ahead of him in the championship standings, Don Stevenson and Cody Smith. A clutch podium might just be his ticket into the playoffs. He only now needs to hold on for 2 more laps, as does Blake Cannon. Cannon is looking to match his teammates' win total and make it 4 wins for Roadhouse Racing this season. Wetmore might bow out early. He's still racing, mind you, but he might not be in the race leading contention any longer. But his teammate is. But Ethan Lane is still there too, and with Lane in the mix, there's no quitting until the checkered flag. Coming to 1 lap to go. White flag is going to fly this time by, and it's going to be all for the number 44 of Blake Cannon. Ethan Lane has been able to chop off 1/10 of a second through the final half sector. Now he's got to go for it. Through 1 and 2, Blake Cannon still advantageous, but ever so slightly. Ethan Lane building up all the momentum he has. This final run down the back straightaway might just be his last chance. Jared Davis holds firmly for 3rd. Nicholas Ward has 4th, but it's all the top 2 running down the final straight. Up the track, down the track. Cannon in control of the dirty air, and he's shooting it right back at the number 6. That might just be it. Through 3 and 4, as long as Cannon doesn't falter, the race is his. Into 4, 1 last corner, and Blake Cannon is up and ahead again. Through the yard of bricks, after 200 miles, Blake Cannon finally collects his 2nd win on the season and wins at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Win number 4 for Roadhouse Racing. Blake Cannon, doubly so, punches his ticket into the playoffs. If there was any doubt he could do it when the lights were brightest, Blake Cannon proves again he is a multi-time winner, and he's got the tools to show it. Lane backs up his 8th pole position of the season with the 2nd place run. Jared Davis with a clutch 3rd place run that he needed. That performance is the difference between falling out of the playoffs, making it in. A huge momentum boost going into our next race. A major defensive performance for Blake Cannon all night long. And to lead, I believe, the most laps by a firm margin, of course. Upwards of 40 on the day, where that 44 team was up in front. There was no stopping Blake Cannon, and rightfully, he's about to burn it down and celebrate again. Dominant in Japan, and bringing it back home to the yard of bricks, Blake Cannon wins from Indy. That motor was good enough for 200 miles, but couldn't last more than 2 minutes, tearing down the track. That's not what matters, though. The win is what counts. Roadhouse Racing sees victory with Blake Cannon collecting his second of the season. 66 laps led. Oh, wow, look at this. The only two drivers that led laps today finished first and second. 66 for Cannon, 14 for Ethan Lane, adding up to a perfect 80 across those two drivers. Jared Davis qualified third, but that doesn't tell nearly the full story. Unfortunately, he's unavailable for interviews, but to put it briefly, Davis was up in the front of the field, got significant right side damage during an incident, had to go from the mid-20s to pit road consistently, caution after caution, to climb the field, make it back to third. It's Blake's podium, of course, and Jared sits on the bottom step tonight with a triumphant result. Nicholas Ward keeps the good times rolling. He finds fourth place. Brian Yazik goes from 11th to 5th as Nate Campbell finishes 6th and Jacob Fife goes 15th to 7th. It'll be then Ryan Bean 8th, 9th Sam Nieto, and Ross Cato up 15 places. He'll go from 25th up to 10th. Your biggest mover is just behind him. John DeBarro is 11th, and 31st to 12th on the night is Kyle Cooper, up 19. Matt Sizzler finishes 13th, Tom Wetmore 14th, and Richard Smith P15. With Josh Gallagher 16th, Nick Tarbuck in 17th, 18th place in Boomer Logan, 19th being Sean Kalist, and Randy Fiash rounding out the top 20. 21st and then on down is Cody Smith, Bobby Keith, Eli Cars, Don Stevenson, and Woody Mahan for the top 25 as Brant McClendon, Brad Patton, Zach Schrintenall, Aaron Eads, and Matt Jonas make up the final places in the top 30. Lastly, you've got 31st in Nolan Potter, the earliest of retirees on the day. Packed house from Indy, great drivers, and a huge result for Blake Cannon. He's already got a win, so tonight's victory wasn't mandatory, but Blake needs that momentum rebound. He's been slipping a little bit further down in the point standings, even though he's still top 5 in the championship picture. There's no way to take back that second win. He's hit the crooked letters, of course, hit the crooked numbers. And now, the letter W adorned across the number 44 once again. His second of the season and an outright dominant performance from the Brickyard. Blake Cannon finishing first on the day. Race victory for Blake, and looks like he's not available for the time being. We'll make sure he's got a word from us, and there he is right now. Blake Cannon, 66 laps led, dominance and great defense with strategy playing out right where you needed it. And you're back in victory lane for the second time this season.
Yeah, it was a good race. I really thought I had the strategy pulled off early in the race. I was going to stay out long. I was going to try to go past halfway and then pit, but the caution right before the stage kind of screwed that all up. And then, I pitted and figured I'd be close on fuel and then had to use my stuff up a little bit to gain some track position before another caution. And then I really don't know why everybody kept pitting. I mean, track position was so valuable tonight, but it all worked out.
And the difference maker was, of course, the fact that you ended up going at it. You found yourself on what was a 20-plus lap run to the end. Tires versus clean air. I think we saw tonight the winning call was to go for that clean air, and I figure what you said already, you feel the same.
Absolutely. Yeah, clean air meant everything. I feel like new tires were definitely better the first 3 laps maybe, but after that, I mean, dirty air played such a huge role that you could pretty much place your car wherever you needed to dirty up the guy behind you's air, and then that was it. So Ethan got lucky probably right there before halfway that I just messed up a couple corners and allowed him to get that close to me, and I blocked him and he did what he had to do and moved me out of the way. So no harm, no foul. That's how he needs to race. I'd expect everybody to race that way. So just glad that I was able to come back to the field and get it done.
Now, with 2 victories, of course, you punched that ticket twice into the playoffs. That's not going to be concerned at all. 1 more regular season race, Iowa. Now, it's not going to matter too much for you, but I'm sure you just want to keep these good races going consistently. Short track, a lot different from Indy. How do you feel about heading back to the cornfields?
I feel really good. I haven't been on it since the repave, but I'm sure it'll be a good race. I feel like I let one at Dover slip away last week, so I just came into Indy not really expecting much and just, trying to put a good, clean race together. I had a really good race last week and kept Ethan on his toes the whole time, and I just, I let him sucker me into running harder than I needed to. So last week was on me, but glad that this week I was able to bounce back.
Blake Cannon, a rebound, and of course, one that's hard to beat. Victory and the most laps led on the night. Any final comments or shout-outs you'd like to give here?
Just want to thank everybody at Roadhouse. Tom, I know he was having a good run there for a minute. It's always good to see your teammates up front. I just got to thank everybody in Integrity Racing League, Jake, and everybody that puts this deal on, all the admins. They do a hell of a job, and it doesn't go unnoticed. All the guys that race, it's a great time every week. So can't thank everybody enough. Can't thank my wife enough. Can't thank you and the broadcast team enough. I just hopefully this is the turn of momentum that I need going into the playoffs. Just peak at the right time. That's the name of the game.
Getting hot when it matters most, that's going to be, of course, the big goal. And a win like this is proof of just that. Blake Cannon winning from the Brickyard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David.
With Cannon on the way, your front row starters finish in opposite positions as Cannon didn't end up getting the pole position. He makes up one spot. Ethan Lane grabs his 8th pole of the season, but it looks like tonight it was track position that made the difference late. And Ethan, you went through everyone you could, but you just couldn't get up to the race lead.
Yeah, that's what'll happen when you get doored in 1 and then fenced in 2, and then pretty much fenced again in 3. But overall, good race. Wish we could have done something. Just we couldn't get back to him after that. Car was broke after we got fenced off too, and I couldn't do anything.
We saw, of course, it was tight racing, especially in those last 15, 20 laps. A few caution breaks in between, but the racing then was tight. Now, I'll tell you this much about the car overall. You think you would have done better off if you had more green flag runs under you?
Yeah, for sure. I had no short run pace, and I don't know. It is what it is. We have these races. Just we have to move on to Iowa, and then think about playoffs.
And when you talk about, of course, the playoff picture, the next race in mind, you find yourself very firmly locked in. The only thing that's really up for grabs would even be that regular season title, which I think you've got a pretty good grip on. That's what's going to be officially clinched. If you can hold on to it for Iowa, are there any other goals for the team heading there?
Win, like always. Probably should have won tonight, but that didn't happen. Probably should have won couple more races than we have this season, but those didn't happen. So we'll move on. We'll go to Iowa. Be just as quick as we were tonight. Just won't make the same mistakes.
Ethan Lane, pole position number 8 on the season and 14 laps led from Indianapolis. Now sights set on finishing this regular season with one more checkered flag. Anything else you'd like to send out here? The floor is yours.
Just thank you for putting these broadcasts and everyone at Integrity who runs the races. Even when we have nights like this where it's not the most fun, still a fun league to be part of.
Ethan Lane, P2 on the day here from the Brickyard and wrapping up with another podium placement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, Jared Davis, as he has been all season long, is unavailable for comment. Either way, 3rd place for the 19 team, and he gets the position he needs, the finish he needs, and keeps himself in the championship consideration. He's coming from the outside looking in, and while I wouldn't label him an underdog, he's had a pretty tricky regular season now, just as he needs it. He's finally putting the pieces together, and he's ready to fight for what he wants, a title. Ethan Lane might just be the odds-on championship favorite, but he was bested tonight by Blake Cannon, and it was tense racing until the very end. Cannon collects race victory after 200 miles tonight, and then there was one. That's right. Final regular season race of the 2025 season is next week, and we hope to see you there. Iowa Speedway, next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, covered live on FTN Broadcasting. Our next broadcast on the channel will be this Saturday as Saturday Night Thunder comes back to full-time competition, and the regular season of both the Ignite and Octane series will conclude next Monday and Tuesday, respectively. Multiple playoff places are still up for grabs, especially in the Octane series, where tonight Davis stunned the field, and drivers such as Nolan Potter and, notably, guys like Wetmore and Stevenson, they struggled. So it's going to be up and down balance, a lot different from what we saw coming into today. Stay tuned for our next race. It's going to be a tight one from the cornfields in Newton, Iowa. Until then, thank you for tuning in to the 20th race of the 2025 Octane Series season. I've been your host, David Kreutz, for FTN Broadcasting. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Your support is always greatly appreciated. Congratulations to Blake Cannon collecting his second win of the season. We hope you have a fantastic night.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Boundless makes its presence felt. It will not be ignored. We're helping turn ideas into reality with a wealth of building products that take every architectural style to the next level. This is what it's like to imagine, build, and transform anything we want into exactly what we seek. This is what it means to be boundless.
Welcome to the Underdog Racing Podcast, where we talk to NASCAR drivers from all over the great country of America. Each week, we chat about the latest races, share stories from the track, and get to know the drivers behind the wheel. We break down the action, hear from drivers about their experiences, and dive into what drives them to keep racing. Whether you're a longtime NASCAR fan or just curious about the sport, this is the place for you. So tune in to the Underdog Racing Podcast, your inside look at the world of NASCAR. Catch us every Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern.
This message is brought to you by the rebrand of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This publication may not be reposted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. NASCAR Camping World Ford F-150. NASCAR Xfinity Ford Mustang, NASCAR Cup Series Next-Gen Ford Mustang, Arca Menards. This has been the publication of the redesign and rebranding of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This message may not be reposted, republicated, or rebroadcasted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. Thank you, and thanks for your time.